We are just the universe with flesh and hair and skin. It's hard to understand this verse if you can't care to see within, but kin, if I can, I will find the truth undimmed. I'll turn it up so much that it will make some windows blind. I'll turn it up so much that it will travel up your spine, peaceful and divine, as immersive as the time that's flowing up your chakras and floating in your mind. I'm revolting against not flying, and finally feeling fine the evolution of humanity. But it's sad to see the petty pedigrees plaguing this reality, perpetuating hate, another death, another casualty, another breath I'll take before the hate gets the best of me. They twist history to tie down their teepees. Well, in the end, I guess we'll see whose roof is dripping. Tell me again, whose roots aren't indigenous? How indignant one gets when a savage Indian learns to speak Western intelligence. Your concern is irrelevant. If you're not down for the cause, please press rewind. If you're perplexed, hit pause and step away from that box. Step away from that flat screen. Listen to your heart or listen to your homie. I'm an elder in the making, at least that's what my elders told me. I'm mostly just a young black forward that's concerned for the future. And if you're in my way, it would be an honor to sneak in your camp, jump your ass, take your women, and continue to count coup on you. I'll ruin you, I'll make a fool of you with the strength living inside the chest of my people. I'll invest in my people to protect all my people. So don't try to tell me that spreading the truth is a lesser of evils. I'm trying to spread the truth so I can help better my people. Your government systematically subjugated and lied to my people. My people got raped and died for your people. So now just tell me when it's time to be lethal, show you how it really feels to be an equal. But wait. If we let go of our egos, it's as simply as meaningfully engaging, or just listen to what I'm saying. They just list it as complaining, too white to be a native, speaking English to reclaim my own language, but this is the indigenous renaissance. Peace to all my creatives. Igakimad in your effort in rediscovering your ancestral greatness. Take the red road that's not taken. Take it with ease and be patient. Do you see what I'm saying? Take only what you need or what you're given, unless it's a Pendleton blanket, the mistaken medicine, mad for mad and prescribing pills like a patient, but we're more like doctors, sorcerers, warriors. My cousins are philosophers, keep musician composers. Other cousins keep their composers. Others just go buck wild. My other cousins are lawyers. Go ahead, try to kill the Indian and the child, because we keep it inside. Cut her hair will still smile, but like a bottle in fire, I set flame when we break and burn down the wagons and forts of the wicked whiskey trade. Man, I wish our problems would fade like some whiskey and chase. Kids in residential school wish they could wash the Indian off their face. They would pray, pray, and pray, but it just won't go away. You better sit in one place or get whipped into shape. Succumb to the faith of the great holy race. I could still feel their prayers. I could still feel their strength, but I still can't accept this godforsaken fate. Some went underground to keep our ceremony safe. Some went underground to get buried or raped. Some never made a sound to preserve their old ways. I'm black for born to burn, but I'm built to reclaim. I'm black for born to burn, but I'm built to reclaim. I'm black for born to burn, but I'm built to reclaim. Welcome to Blackfoot territory.
Thanks, Teri. Hi, everybody. We'll just start something. This is called "And Dreams Are What We Have in Store." Bats are slipping sideways through the dusk over the lake shore. Across the water, I can hear a radio and laughter. Just far enough away, I'd be guessing at the singer and the song. I'm far more caught up in listening to your breathing, lying back with my arms around you, your warmth and weight against my chest. Close enough for the girls I go with, not that I go with any others anymore. Your charms entrance me. When you romance me, I start singing show tunes in my rough and rusty whisper muffled in your hair. Tonight, we both know the score. You're singing along, a quiet harmony. Here with you, dear, in my arms, love songs don't seem so hackneyed. I find myself believing in amour. This is the real deal, this way I feel. There'll be no more foolish false alarms. When you showed up in my life, it took about a second and a half to slough off previous commitments. From forum, I should be warning you what harms befall any girl who gets her life tangled up with mine. But you just call my bluff. Nights like this are made for dreaming, and dreams are what we have in store. Okay, do a couple semi-positive ones. Actually, that one was really positive, wasn't it? Gotta. We're out of character here, folks. Fools, they are the only nation. Believe no matter how dire the situation, the rising sun's just cause for elation, the rising moon ample cause for celebration. The world's newborn with every dawn. Moonrise sees each day's sorrows gone, so put the cap and motley on, shake the bells and sing the song. We may be lackwits, idiots, feckless and improvident, but we live assured and confident that each waking breath's a treasure, that we live to take our pleasure, and living, return it in good measure.
I have not been writing things. I've been thinking of things to write, so it'll come. So I'll read you some things that are older. So this one is called Otherness. I remember the first time I felt different. It was when we moved to a better neighborhood. My family stuck out like a sore thumb. We didn't belong. To be honest, I don't think we were wanted. The neighborhood was too good, too nice for us. It's like we were a stained, misshapen puzzle piece in this immaculate puzzle. Our clothes didn't fit, our skills didn't fit, our lifestyle didn't fit, we didn't fit. It became even more apparent when we started school. What a culture shock for us and for them. What makes us cringe at different? We were different. We had a different upbringing. We had different experiences. We were also delayed. We were treated differently, as if we were less than. Some had good intentions, others not so much. The kids were cruel, or maybe I should say they could be cruel. The adults could be just as bad. Where else do kids learn this kind of behavior? That's that one. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. Sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I want to claw out of my body and get away. I don't want to feel. My mind keeps racing as if it's a car driving erratically in traffic. Sometimes I just want it all to stop. I feel like a kettle with the water roaring and screaming out. But there's a tightness in my throat, blocking the sound, my voice. Blocked by my deepest fears that are just deep-rooted.
So I have about 3 little poems for you here this evening. The first one is called Rolling Buddha. Buddha's head has fallen off, one too many times, most recently rolling so far under the couch I strained my back when I tried to retrieve it. Who am I to question how the Buddha rolls? But I think it's time for a frank discussion. Although you're my favorite, I do have 2 other Buddhas, and neither of them is nearly as heavy as your headless, broken, cast-iron ass. So bless you, my dear, beloved, decapitated Buddha. This may not be the disembodied spirit you strove to become, but after years of service for which I will be eternally grateful, your ass has become a burden. It is now your karma to seek moksha in the elements, where your head may roll wherever it pleases, and I shall no longer feel obliged to search for it. Think of it this way. You have not been discarded, you've been liberated. This one's called the King Neptune Seafood Caper. King Neptune Seafood, said the neon sign above the long chrome-plated diner off Interstate 95, Mystic, Connecticut, in the winter of '68. I slipped in there like a sea snake, broke as a rake handle. You know, ethics never sit down at the same table as a hungry 19-year-old a couple of thousand miles from home. So I ordered a bowl of Manhattan clam chowder with buttered cheese biscuits and a cold pint of beer. Just as I was wiping my lips, the waitress approached. It looked like she was totaling up my bill. And thinking fast, I said I hadn't finished dining, and ordered the Daily Catch blue plate special, garnished with lemon and dill, a delightful I've lost my place here. A delightful combo of deep-fried, beer-battered shrimp and halibut, hand-cut chips, homemade coleslaw, and a bottle of Chablis. Just as I was finishing up, a couple of statuesque women, shiny as polished ebony and lean as muscular gazelles, walked in, so I asked them to join me. They said they were artists from Philly on their first trip to the coast, so I ordered the house platter consisting of almost everything the Seven Seas could possibly host, and switched to a nice Chardonnay. We talked about bright lights and nightlife in big cities and what kind of trouble we could get ourselves into without falling overboard or drowning in this little seaside town, when they said they wanted to go dancing. I said I'd go look after the bill and left them there at the table to warm up my car. My engine was idling and the heater blowing hot air when they came out a little bit tipsy, staggering and giggling, and snuggled up real nice and cozy in the back of my 52 Olds 88. They didn't notice the waitress and her boss at the front entrance, screaming hysterically and rhetorically yelling which one of us planned to cover the costs. I quickly shifted gears and left King Neptune Diner and its charming host and servers in a billowing cloud of dust. The country band played wildly from the stage in an old barn. The girls bought a basket of unshelled peanuts and a few pitchers of beer, and we danced until our glasses were empty. Then we looked for a motel along Gasoline Alley to cop a few winks before starting again. I swiped the keys for room 23 from a housekeeper's cart at a Howard Johnson's and told the maid maintenance had some plumbing repairs, so the room would be out of use for the next little while. It didn't take long before, well-fed and exhausted, into a freshly made bed of fine Egyptian cotton and down pillows, the three of us fell.
Two are from when we were performing our meeting online. So some of you may not have heard these. They're a few months old. This first one is called Cocoon. No swearing, but also no jokes in it. Cocoon. It is peaceful in my fortress. Strong winds howl around it. Distant voices, threats and pleas alike, bounce off its stone walls. Burning oil cannot light it on fire. Trebuchets cannot crack it. My peaceful, empty fortress. I am mighty in my armor, equally impenetrable for medieval and contemporary weapons. So shiny, it blinds the enemies. Spotted and feared from afar. Avoided by miles. My mighty armor weighs me down. In this high-tech bubble wrap, I cannot possibly be bruised. It covers every inch of my being, resistant to shaking, tossing, squeezing, blows, hugs, caresses, ideal for long-haul travels and lifelong loneliness. This high-tech bubble wrap is suffocating me. I feel safe in my cocoon, hidden in plain sight through Mother Nature's ingenious mimicry. No predator can recognize there is life inside it. They see it and don't believe it. They sniff it, then they leave it. My safe cocoon emits the smell of rotting flesh. This last one, no swearing, a little bit of joking. This is about this person that I met. We've known each other for a long time. They live in Calgary, but we kind of reconnected online during COVID stuff. And then we discovered how very different we are and how we should not really be in communication. So this is also, I guess, reminiscence of the time when I was trying to learn the names of all the muses by heart. So the title of this poem is Polyhymnia and Erato. So Polyhymnia is the muse that is the muse of sacred poetry or divine poetry, and Erato, of course, is the muse of erotic or romantic poetry. I hear what you're saying. You meditate. You write sacred poetry. You worship the higher being. You answer to the higher calling. You don't need earthly pleasures. You will be content when your soul is in mandala. I'm not sure you catch my drifting. I tried to meditate once. Was too distracted by living beings here and now in this finite and imperfect world, mainly by the birds and bees. My soul will die with my body, and I don't believe in mandala. You make your own food. You protect the environment. I eat the food you make. I dream of brewing my own beer. I'd like to try some. Oh, sober vegan, admirable choice. Barley and hops are both vegan and organic, you know that, right? You play mahjong with yourself. I practice other arts with myself. Do I write? Oh yes, erotic poetry. I worship the here and now. Deities do not exist in my world. Only the imperfect yet real humans. I think we can agree that both you and me are imperfect yet here and now humans. I know a game we could play together. It can involve all sorts of ancient, meditative, and a bit more sweat-provoking, heart and other organ-stimulating practices. Is there a mantra? Oh yes. Hold me, trust me, and take me. Thank you very much.
Okay, I've got a couple of poems for you about Ukraine, which is constantly in our minds. And I'll just say that and then get into the two of them, and then I'll give you a little intro to my last poem. Neptune missile sinks Moskova. When cruise missiles tested in our sky, like lightning bolts on targets trained, unimagined their Neptune progeny would one day help war-torn Ukraine. Like lightning bolts on targets trained against the rising chance of anti-war, would one day help war-torn Ukraine and mute invaders' flagship roar. Against the rising chants of anti-war, heavy artillery requests are sent as aid to mute invaders' flagship roar, to deter that deceitful devil's raid. Heavy artillery requests are sent as aid to support Ukrainian spirits high, to deter that deceitful devil's raid, with progeny of crews tested once in our Alberta skies. Thank you. The format of that poem was the Pantoon, and I'm finding that is quite an interesting format to repeat and get, maybe punch through some of the statements that we would like to hear. The next one is also about Ukraine. Crying. Crying wives at Poland's borders. Will they ever see their men again? Husbands crying, return to Ukraine, resolved their homeland to regain. Crying Russian soldiers dying, baffled to meet such resistance strong. Crying, we've been duped, the war of lying, inflamed by Putin's incessant wrong. Crying as another little man, megalomaniac, holds us all captive. Leaders crying have not curbed his plan by rendering his power inactive. Crying we who watch with rage, impotent. We can't stop this badness. Crying world at needless carnage, crying at incessant madness. Thank you.
These are two newer poems, and after spending May long weekend at a ski hill in Banff at Sunshine, I'm definitely feeling the first poem about sleep and lack thereof. It's called Z's. 9 hours of sleep, one more time. 9 hours of sleep is luxurious. 10 hours of sleep is an indulgence. And 11 hours of sleep is just gluttony. The early bird catches the worm, but the wise old owl finds time to write. Is there a world where both can exist and perhaps coincide? How to make this work, to balance, without slipping into the polar opposite place, where 5 hours sleep is a rare taste of REM and reset. 4 hours sleep is like a dash of health mixed with no satisfaction. 3 hours of sleep is just torment for the following day's duration. I ponder, I ponder, I ponder. To welcome luxury and renewal, occasional late nights with time's grace in the mornings. Can this equilibrium be achieved? Is this a reasonable feat to be sought after? This parity conceived and mastered? I ponder, I ponder, I ponder. Maybe I'll sleep on it. All right, and this poem's about energy and the people you surround yourself with and your own health. Oh, a little further? Okay. I sing, I'm used to, sorry about that. Was it very echoey for you? I'll stand back here. Okay, here we go. Be careful who you put your energy around, who mingles with your force. Even those with great and pure desires can prove to drain out those precious droplets of power and steer your light and positive day off course. Kind souls with the best intentions, yet their drama, indecisiveness, and lack of etiquette can act as a straw-sucking vacuum. They unknowingly consume that powerful vigor you put your all into cultivating daily. Be mindful of your own soul's health, what's best for you, and reasonable expectations for yourself. The sheer ignorance of some with all the altruism they possess. Let me say that line one more time. Be mindful of your own soul's health, what is best for you, and reasonable expectations of yourself. The sheer ignorance of some with all the altruism they possess. Though at times they're frustrating beyond measure and distract you from your goals and sight-set achievements, you are not obligated to be submersed in this. You are allowed to be picky with your energy. Back away from the friction and head-shaking circumstances. You deserve more, and your time is far too valuable to squander it away on those who do not fill and charge your bucket, only deplete it. Don't let them dull your receptors into lethargy. Protect your energy. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here again and to see all your faces. I'm always so happy when poetry time rolls around. Of course, I don't have the happiest poems for you tonight, but you're all used to that by now. This is an older one. I'm not sure if I've read it here or not, but if I have, it's been a while, so. I say I have depression, that I'm just going through a bad spell, when the truth feels so much weaker. If I say I let myself love someone again, and they let my fragile, bleeding heart slip from their fingers again, that this is merely what a shattered heart feels like again. The truth is still too raw, so I deflect it with my mental health, because I know you won't ask questions, because this, depression, you understand. And that is easier for me to handle than trying to ask you why you were so clumsy. And I'm sure most of you are aware of all the going on in the world, but there was another shooting in Texas, and that one just really got me, because I'm like, these are children that are paying the price for our mistakes, I guess. And it just was really heavy for me the last couple days, and it reminded me of a poem I had written another time that I had an experience, seeing someone who was in pain, so I thought I would share that one kind of in light of the recent events. We are all just humans, and humans are in pain. I see him cover his face with his hands, and his grief reaches out for me from across the room. It hits me like a direct bolt, like lightning. I feel his pain. My heart is heavy. My chest is tight as I hear his sobs rising out of his chest. He chokes on them as they come out of his mouth. My stomach turns with his grief. His pain is mine. I do not know him. I have never seen him before. I will probably never see him again, but his pain in this moment has become mine to share. I want to hold him in my arms to soothe him until the grief subsides. I want to absorb his pain, to give him space to breathe, but his pain also demands privacy and needs to be given respect. No one should have to suffer like this. Suffer the loss of one we love alone. No one should have to suffer this pain, losing someone you love so desperately, now just gone. Not by choice, but by an act of nature or chance or God or whoever plans our moments like these in a waiting room. I have connected to him in his pain because even though I do not know the exact circumstances that have brought about these soul-tearing, gut-wrenching sobs, I recognize pain's voice. I remember her familiar touch. And in this moment, I wish I could take it all away from him. I know the crushing weight, the agony and despair that are the pathway ahead. I want to clutch him to my chest until this energy has passed through, until he no longer makes that sound, until he no longer feels this pain. One of us walking this road was enough. No one else should have to go. Stranger or not, I'd take the walk again. But instead, I walk out of the room with a second chance at life, while he is left with nothing but the pain. Thank you.
I'm going to read a poem which I read last Friday when we had an event at the Helen Schulen Nature Center. We were reading poems about nature, and I wrote it for that. So the poem works a little better in that setting outdoors, although in fact it began raining and snowing halfway through my reading last Friday. So maybe this will be better. And apologies to those who've already heard it, but nature needs us to recycle, right? It's called Winter at the Nature Center. Our little gem of a nature center offers shelter a bit from the relentless cold and wind of our prairie winter. We came here often when the gusty deep freeze relented a titch, to find solace in the quiet of the woods, the majesty of the bridge, and the hope that spring would return. And life endured here, even in the depths of winter's frozen nights and truncated days. As we walked the trails, black-hatted friends would fly out to greet us with their happy sing-song, chickadee-dee-dee. We were not alone. Scattered through the trails, gazing up at the trees, were others like us. Amid the broken tangle of half-dead cottonwoods and desiccated grasses, they stood sentinel, silent and still in the trees, cupped hands outstretched like members of a cult, furtively glancing back towards the windows of the nature center, fearful to be spied in their soft defiance of the stern signs, "Do not feed the wildlife." We too began to come with gifts for our feathered friends, holding out crushed peanuts in our hands. Bold chickadees came first, one or two, then flocks at times, chirping and greeting, chickadee-dee-dee, and calling their buds to the picnic. Pairs of downy woodpeckers, shy at first, pretending to peck at branches, summoned their courage and came to our hands. Silent and deferential, they seemed intimidated by multiples of tiny chickadees half their size, coming only when the coast was clear, but lingering, looking into our eyes, as Tris said in her poem, coming only when the coast was clear, lingering, looking into our eyes, selecting peanut chunks carefully before flying off to cache and to eat. Red-breasted nuthatches were the last to come, scuffling near our feet for dropped shards at first, then coming to our hands with their muffled call like tiny seals. But most joyous always were the happy social chickadees, so glad they were to see us, so bold to intercept us as we first arrived. We imagined them setting watch in the parking lot, seizing on opening car doors and flying right in to sit on the steering wheel, announcing themselves greedily, chickadee-dee-dee. As winter wore on, it seemed more and more joined the cult. So many were coming here now, hands outstretched, feeding our precious birds, competing for prime spots. We feared it was all too much. Imagined by the end of winter, ungainly, overstuffed chickadees would be crash landing on our outstretched hands like fat little chickens. They got us through the winter, and we helped them too to get through in those lonely days of COVID and cold. They were our friends. But now spring is here, and life has returned to our nature center refuge. We all survived, most of us anyways. Chickadees, woodpeckers, nuthatches, and world-weary humans too. The birds no longer wait in ambush for their ambulatory feeders to arrive. Like the bees, birds have other things on their minds, and we humans can walk amidst the fresh green leaves, the thrusting shoots, the rising river, and today, last Friday, at last, moisture in the air. And we know that life goes on. There is hope and joy and solace, too, in precious nature. Thank you.
Hi. I just wrote this, so this isn't very poetic, but it is a poem, sorta, kinda. It doesn't have a title. I once wondered what it'd like to be the guy giving out samples at Costco. Fast forward many years and I am that guy. It may look easy, but sometimes it isn't. There's a lot that goes into it. We assemble in the back of the store like a colony of penguins. We are dressed in black and white with blue aprons and tan hats. One by one, we sign in and get our paperwork for the shift ahead. The gods might be cruel or kind in what you get to demo. As an example of something that is simple, today I was selling Swiss chocolates. A week ago I was selling sausages, and that was really messy. You had to cook it, then chop it up, and juice gets everywhere. There's a lot of sausage jokes, but I won't say them here. Anyhow, depending on what we are doing, we get assigned a certain cart. The Metro cart is a small cart. It's like a jet fighter. The cooking cart is a larger cart, and it's like a bomber. Our aircraft carrier is the area where we load our carts with whatever we need. Once we get all our gear, we fire up our engines and are airborne. Our area of operations could be the coolers, the deli, the bakery, or the candy aisle. We then sit down and set up. Our ammunition is the samples we give out. When we make a sale, we make a kill. The goal is to get 20 sales for the day. For whatever reason, this reminds me of Top Gun. I am no maverick. My call sign would probably be Spooky, Spectre, or maybe even Fatty. Sometimes it gets really crazy, and sometimes it's super slow. When it's really busy, our boss will appear. She's like a helicopter, bringing us our supplies or other things we need. If you do anything with food, you probably know about the danger zone. When our boss talks about it in our daily meetings, I feel like saying, the danger zone is directly behind me when I cut the cheese. I don't do that though, because she'd probably execute me. We don't work for Costco, we work for CDS. Costco contracts CDS. Along with us, we work in the same area in the back with the merchandisers. At first, I really didn't notice them, but with time, I've gotten to know some of them, sort of. Some of them, I've given them nicknames. There's Big Beard, Danielson, King James, Blue, Mo, Muppet Arms, Brew, and others who I can't remember because I'm writing this off of the top of my head. Over time, I've gotten to know some of the regular members. Members are customers, but they're called members because you have to be a member to shop there. Some of them call me by my name. Others I recognize because I've seen them many times. Our goal is to keep the members happy. Sometimes all it takes is a smile. Sometimes it's a few kind words. Sometimes it's a bigger sample. An ample sample is 2 bites. Today was the first day we didn't wear masks. Since I've been there, that's all we've worn. It was strange to see the others' faces. I'm sure they thought the same. Most of us had smiles, some more so than others. And that's it for that one. I haven't written anything new lately, so I'll just read an old one here. It's called Grandma's Little Shack. Been a long time since I've been home. Been a long time since I've been to Grandma's Little Shack. But after all this time, I can still remember it. Standing alone on the tundra, sort of like a lighthouse with its beacon there to guide weary sailors safely to shore after a long time out at sea, which in our case was a magnificent lake, emerald in color. The same way the Hudson Bay blankets were colored that I slept in and on while in Grandma's Little Shack. In the mornings when I'd wake, I'd be greeted by the old wood fire stove that usually had some fresh bannock and some kind of clear water fish waiting to be consumed by the child that should have known how to do such a simple task, but being brought up in the so-called civilized ways, didn't. A woman well beyond her prime had to fend for this youngster who was uneducated by her standards. But in time, I learned some of them while in Grandma's little shack. I can faintly remember her telling me of legends that have long since been forgotten by everyone but her. And when her time comes, a part of her heritage will die, along with her shack that she and her husband built with their own hands. From a distance, Grandma's little shack doesn't look like anything special, but if you knew the woman who lived in it, you'd say it was. There's so much more I'd like to say, but it's been a long time since I've been home, and it's been even longer since I've been to Grandma's little shack. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming here. I guess I'll read two poems tonight. The first one, a long time ago in a very, very different life, I was one of those Mormon missionaries you see out on the street. Very different life, just wondering, okay. But I was for 2 years in Russia. So when I got back, my church congregation, especially a lot of the older members who had lived through the Cold War, were just hounding me like, what's it like behind the Iron Curtain? What are Russians like? What are Russians like? And so I sat in a pew and I wrote this very short poem. The Russian, asleep. He wakes and dresses by the dawn, some bread, a kiss, and then he's gone. Off to work, he grinds the stone. Late afternoon, he's left for home. A bite to eat, his family round, back to bed, the house is sound, asleep. They're like us. Thank you. This other one, I didn't want to come empty-handed or with stuff I'd written 15 years ago. So I decided to try and write something today, and I wrote about my day yesterday, actually. It was kind of an unusual day. I work from home these days, and yesterday I went online just to check the news, and long story short, a little group I'm in, I met somebody on there, and I'll just leave it at that. Except for one small part, most of the quotes in here are real. They're from our conversation. And I apologize for something of a first draft, but we'll give it a shot. Yesterday, I made a friend. Breakfast ate, and though I tend to keep my day most to myself, I saw my friend could use some help. He said, I don't know what to do. Yesterday, the Russians blew my house apart and parents too. My little sister's by my side. Right now, we do our best to hide. Beneath the streets where we're unseen, my sister's 8 and I'm 16, and I don't know what to do. I set aside my meager plans. We talked the day through man to man. I learned all kinds of different ways his family paints Ukrainian eggs. He shared his art to pass the time, and as I stared at his designs, he asked, please wait 5 minutes. I'm crying. Soon the Kharkiv sun had set, and we two shared a cigarette. While I sat and smoked away, the Lethbridge sky had turned to gray, though birds with ease still made their way. Our air defense is working now, he said, and soon described the sound that through the night did carry o'er as rockets hit the city core. I was scared before the war, but nothing scares me anymore. He said he wouldn't sleep today, but I said, try rest anyway. We chatted more, and before long, my friend's replies were all but gone. Stifling a weary yawn, I sat and turned the TV on. Saved from falling broken-hearted, the Battle of Alberta started. I'm grateful to live here. Thank you very much.
Hi. So I used to write poetry a lot when I was younger, and then I stopped for many years. And over Christmas, I was like, I should get back into this. And I was processing a lot around my family and how my family operates. And so this was the first poem I wrote this year. For context, my family is Mennonite, and deeply traumatized. And so there are some biblical references throughout just as a result of that. I was knit together in my mother's womb. Every loop and stitch was accounted for, and it was good. Silken fiber infused with fire and milk and the blood and tears of years yet to come, cultivating life within the strands that were tenderly united to shape me, to create my soul and my soul alone. But it was not all harmonious. The coarse fibers of shame that imposed themselves on my mother and her mother before were bound with my perfect red. Call it negligence from the Creator or destiny for comfort, call it anything, because otherwise it hides in waiting. Unnamed, unknown, and sorely unwanted. And it was quietly, unmistakenly woven into my life, causing harm in ways I could never know until I learned its name and the harm of its silence. All understanding of my existence and healing begins when I was first spoken of, from when the dust of the ground met with the breath of life, when my perfect red was interwoven with sorrow and the knots were finally tied. Thank you.
So as kind of context, I've been hyping up how nervous I've been to my two friends because my friend and my partner, because the poems I'm going to be sharing today are about them. I never have titles, so number 33. I am a Virgo. I'm always right. Imagine my delight in being wrong. These once frozen eyes laced with exhaustion. What I thought would be my perpetual eyesight is alight with tears of wonder and whimsy. Shattered heart and shaking hands, accepted to be the fracturing corpse of who I once was, now dances with you in rivers of moonlight. Seared lungs and scorched lips, begging for a drop of morning dew, speak your name into the depths of night and find ichor. Bleeding ears, yearning for three simple words, are graced with your symphony, an orchestral crescendo. And a heavy head, tired from yearning, rests in your arms, finds solace on your chest, and smiling, sleeps. Thank you. "34. I gotta wait because she's not paying attention. God, Megan. Okay, here we go, 34. I'm sat here well into the night, staring through the window and gazing at the shadows dancing in the mysticism, thinking of how I convinced myself that I would not survive the heartbreak and calamity raging in my body, threatening to tear away at me and turn this meat suit into a charcuterie board, or how I would never find the desire to pull the pieces of my former self together and create something new, but maybe that was never the point. And maybe the point was to come out scathed, never except in the sense of understanding more of myself, or in the sense of unrelentless in knowing what I deserve. But in all of that soul searching and demanding and learning or unlearning or finding my person, I forgot that the person I am now, the ways in which I have survived or thrived or found myself or found my joys or found my places and spaces and familiar faces could never have come out of the shadows would it not have been for one woman who gave me the honor, the courage to share words with the world, to seek new horizons, to climb literally and figuratively and keep on climbing through the searing in my arms or the pain in my legs. We call each other pillars sometimes. Humans in general, not her and I, but pillar will never be a big enough word to carry the sheer breadth of what her support, her love has been, and I only hope that she knows how much I owe her my life, because she did save my life. She did hold this bleeding mess quite literally, and I hope you know that this mess, bleeding or otherwise, will always be by your side as you have been by mine. Thank you.
So last night I had a dream. If you know me at all, you know that I love dreams. Night dreams, daydreams, dreams of a rosy future, dreams of deep pools and surprising lovers. Dreams send me to lives I'll never know in awake life. They point me to possible futures and answer lots of what-if questions in full drama, color, and stereophonic sound. But sometimes they're just a little too close to my awake life. You know, the life that isn't nearly as interesting as my night life. So last night, my dream had me searching for wisdom. Oh, promising, I thought. Yeah, I often do instant commentary on my dreams. I'm talented that way. So, searching for wisdom, I open my email in my dream and I find a 200-page email that seems so important. But when I looked again, it wasn't 200 pages. It was 376 pages in 200 sections. In my dream, I'm looking forward to reading this email, but something's wrong. Whatever it's about is inaccurate, and it doesn't really have anything to do with my life. Why am I reading this at all? Oh yeah, FOMO, fear of missing out. After all, the author spent a lot of time writing that, and I sure don't want to miss anything that might have something great in it for me. If I stop reading at page 3, or even page 375, I might miss the treasure that I'm sure must be on page 376. So all night I read. 376 pages I read. And you know what? There wasn't any treasure in it for me, in any of those 376 pages. No treasure, and no time for any more dreams that night. This is way too much like my awake life. Searching out, listening to, constantly being open to what wisdom there may be. I have a life overrun with OPV, other people's voices. My day life is ruining my usual kick-ass nightlife. So I'm running an experiment to check the internet only 3 times per day. One day I checked only once, but I suppose that keeping the email open all day and calling it once isn't quite fair. But this is what dreams can do too. Give me a little kick in the rear to listen to my own voice. Remind me of whose life this is anyway. And so, for the sake of my nightlife, I vow to turn away from my own life, my own voice, no more than 3 times a day. I sure hope my nightlife returns to deep pools and surprising lovers. That was written in 2018, and I'm down to about maybe 4 or 5 times a day. This one is called Overwhelmed. So it's a cross between overwhelmed and feeling wealthy. In a parched land, I looked for water. Oh, and it poured forth. Have you ever tried to drink from a fire hose? Too much. So grateful, but overwhelmed. Such wealth, such overwhelmed. Sometimes I like to sit under the waterfall, but other times I let the water collect, settle. Then I dive deep into the lake where I examine things slowly, witness, appreciate, savor. I am a woman between the worlds of everyday frazzle and deep knowing. I can't do everything. I'm not supposed to. It keeps me humble, close to the hummus of dear body, close to who I really am. This earth has asked for water, and we pour forth. But never call us too much. We are riches, treasure, abundance.
For so long, your voice was echoed in my head, your opinion written in my reflection, but I couldn't see that. The tears in my eyes blurred the truth. My blurry vision made me see your words as my own, my skin always my enemy. I would see other little girls that had the porcelain skill labeled as beauty in my eyes. the melanin skin that's shown in different beautiful shades, labeled as dirty in mine, your eyes. I always saw the tones of my skin as dirty, never able to see the beauty of shades. Still, I could always see it in other people's skin. No matter how much you said, how much you criticized, how much you commented, how much, I still saw the beauty of their sun-kissed melanin skins. For so long, you denied me of the truth about my own skin. You reprimanded me when I would stay in the sun for too long, and the fear that I would get darker, said with disgust every time as if it were a bad thing. Compliment me in the winter as my sun-deprived skin would get lighter, always said as the highest form of compliment, always careful with your own skin, keeping it the right shade of porcelain as if it would be the greatest, as you would call it, with the greatest level of arrogance. Mom, we were born in the same place, born in the same city, and yet my dad's strong genes won, giving this beautiful dark skin, but I couldn't see it that way. I would only see it as dirty. I used to scrub my face really hard, hoping that my skin would get lighter, prettier, but not anymore. No longer under your roof, under your opinion. This summer, the sun will kiss my skin. Your words no longer will echo in my head. No longer will they be written in my mirror, that my skin will shine in the glow of the sun. The shade will change, not getting darker, but more beautiful. No longer will I need to scrub the dirt away, for my skin is pretty. No, it's gorgeous. The beauty you denied me for so long. But this summer, my eyes are dry, no longer blurry with tears. I can see the blades of your insults clearly. This summer, I will sit in the sun. The sun will kiss my skin, make out with it, make love to it, because this will be my summer. Thank you. Thank you. I was very nervous about sharing that one. And then, in true form of myself, we're gonna get a little dark here. I had a friend who passed away 2 years ago yesterday. So this is about him. You're gone. Gone for good. I miss you. I rewatched the video, you know, the one where we pierced your ear. It really captured our chaos, our friendship. But now you're gone. You're really gone. It hurts to think about. You meant so much to us, not just me, but all of us. We're still recovering. 2 years you've been gone. I wish every day that it was still all a bad dream, even after 2 years. I cried nonstop for that week. I still cry. I cried last night as I realized what day it was, how it was the day that you left. I miss you. You decided the life was not good enough for you, so you decided to leave, to kill yourself. I hate how much it's romanticized, how many writers describe it as their lover. Suicide is not a joke or a lover, it's pain. I miss you. You were a child. Your whole life was in front of you. Suicide is not a joke or a lover, it's pain. Pain that'll never fully heal because you'll always be gone. Please, if you're struggling, please, I'm begging you, seek help, because trust me, you will be missed. Because Kaylin, I miss you so much. Thank you.